Life lessons. When a stranger showered me with unexpected kindness. A cupboard, a little trust, and a lesson for life. In 1987, my mom and I moved to Hyderabad from Chennai. I was on a job transfer, and Mom couldn't wait to start job hunting. We barely had enough to get by, but we were brimming with positivity. We set goals, we made wish lists. One of the items on my list was a cupboard. We'd arrived with one trunk and a suitcase with our clothes, a sewing machine, 1 carton of utensils, and 3 cartons of books. We rented a couple of chests of drawers for storage because we couldn't afford furniture yet, so I designed a cupboard hoping someday, or so I thought. My little dream came true sooner than I expected when a friend, who was a building contractor, came to my rescue. It meant scrimping even more on our expenditure, but we made it work. I walked to work, fitness, never ate out, healthier, and took on overtime on Saturdays for extra cash. I also tutored a couple of high school kids, which significantly helped. The friend introduced me to his carpenter, who promised to build the cupboard at cost. We bought the materials and hardware for the basic frame. The cupboard was 6 feet tall and 6 feet wide. When it was finished, it looked beautiful. It had a glass shelf to show off my collections, and I'd splurged a bit on brass knobs and handles. Then in 1992, my job transferred me from Hyderabad to Bangalore, and we moved again. Our apartment was on the first floor, and somehow we managed to hoist the cupboard up. As we settled in, Mom got a job a few miles away. Taking the bus every morning at 7 a.m. proved challenging. Since I had a sales job and a scooter, it made sense to find a place closer to her school. Assuring her I'd take care of the moving as I had more flexibility with my work timings, I urged her to focus on her work. We couldn't afford a packer and spent evenings doing it ourselves. On moving day, I shushed Mom when she freaked out about me handling everything by myself. But she couldn't take the day off as that meant losing salary, and so I dropped her off at the bus stop and returned home to wait for the moving van. Now, getting the cupboard upstairs was one thing, but this time, the movers couldn't figure out how to get it out of the house. We could not tie it and lower it down, as they feared it would splinter. I panicked. What to do? Obviously, I couldn't leave it behind. We loaded the rest of our stuff into the van. For the smaller stuff, I had hired an auto rickshaw for the day. It was cheaper to commute that way. On one of our trips back from the new place, the driver asked me why I looked worried. When I told him, he said he was an amateur carpenter and offered to look at the cupboard and figure out what to do. Of course, I was skeptical, but what did I have to lose? He took a look at the cupboard and said he could dismantle it. We could then take it to the new place to reassemble. Unlike Humpty Dumpty, a tiny voice inside me wondered, what if dismantling the cupboard damaged it? And then, worse still, what if he disappeared, leaving me with a stack of boards that no one could fix? But then, I also thought, what if I put my faith in the guy? Anything could happen. After the last trip of the day, the carpenter auto rickshaw driver left, promising to be back the next morning. Sure enough, I had a sleepless night. Bright and early in the morning, the carpenter showed up with his toolkit. I thought we'd get the charges out of the way and asked him how much for the job. He said 100 rupees. Today, that's less than $2. Back then, it should have cost me at least 500. I was a bit suspicious about the low quote, but as I said, something about him made me trust him. A trust well placed, as it turned out. He studied the structure and then methodically removed all the external fittings and stored them in a plastic bag. Then, he asked for a piece of chalk and a sheet of paper. And a pen. He sketched the cupboard on the paper and matched the numbers as he numbered the panels, taking notes. I was impressed. It was the perfect way to do it. He then gently removed the nails and neatly stacked the numbered panels. In 3 hours, he was done. We packed up the panels and accessories, and he dropped me at the new place, promising to come over at 10 a.m. 3 days later. He did not take any money, saying he was fine with being paid after the reassembly. It's funny how doubt is never far away. I couldn't help wondering, would he show up? What if he didn't? It was the early 90s, so there were no cell phones. We didn't even have a landline at home. When we needed to call, we used the public booth down the road. Since the driver did not have a contact number, there was no way to reach him. Mom was amused by it all. When I voiced my doubts, she calmed me, saying, "Keep the faith, Vidya." Anyway, I waited out the 3 days, taking care of other things. I was still nursing a wee bit of apprehension in a corner of my doubting mind. Would he turn up as promised the next day? As if to add to my misery, I came down with the flu. The next morning, the carpenter showed up at exactly 10 a.m. as promised and got to work. Just as systematically as he pulled the cupboard apart, he started to put it together again. I watched him work. At some point, I fell asleep on the divan with another bout of fever. He finished his work and sat patiently outside our door until I woke up sweating, when the fever subsided. He took one look at me and left, saying he'd be back shortly. 15 minutes later, he returned with a packet of food and coffee from the little hotel down the road, and a strip of paracetamol tablets from the pharmacy. I didn't need those as my mom had made lunch, but I was touched and grateful. I asked him to share the food, idli, sambar and chutney, with me, and after much, then he insisted on doing the dishes. As he prepared to leave, I paid him 200 rupees. He laughed and returned 100, reminding me we agreed on 100, and said something I'll never forget for as long as I live. If one human cannot care for another, help one another, what is the use of living? Then, telling me to take care, left. I just sat there, 100 rupees in my hand, eyes filled with tears, and a heart that felt full and happy to be alive. That cupboard made a few more intercity moves over the years, intact, until 1999, when we moved from Mumbai to Bangalore and decided to sell it. That beloved cupboard may be gone, but I'll never forget that stranger's kindness. To quote him, "If one human cannot care for another, help one another, what is the use of living?" P.S.